So any questions on yesterday class? Okay, for Vinod purpose, we'll just refresh the yesterday session for 5 minutes. Okay, for access request provisioning. So we will split access request management sessions in three phases. One is ARM, the GRC post installation, and as well as ARM pre-configuration tasks. The second, MSMP, configuring workflow. And third one, customization. In case any custom to specific agent and a specific path based on the requirement, then we will do the BRF plus. So ARM is basically a user administration activities. Whatever the security tasks we will perform in normal user administration, same tasks we will automize in ARM in the GRC. So generally, creation of users, modifications, the role assignment, user group, validity extension, password reset, and deactivation and locking, unlocking, and perform risk analysis in case additional role assignments. So this is user request form. Earlier security before GRC, the normal user request form. The request form will send to new user or existing user in case any additional roles which is required. They need to fill the form and they need to fill their job responsibilities and their personal information. Once they fill the form, they will follow they will send a mail to security and security team will follow the approvals, will initiate approvals, manager, role owner. Once these approvals completed, then users will be created manually in the system, but there is no risk analysis check here. That is a drawback, but GRC will overcome all these. GRC, with help of GRC, we will automize the complete process approvals along with the risk analysis. In case if we provide access, then what what is the chances of risks with this access? So we can estimate, and based on that, approver will take decision and will approve the roles or reject the roles. Also, whatever the new roles which is created or existing roles, with help of GRC, we will perform the risk analysis all the roles, make sure that inherent risks will be removed, which we already discussed in ARA. And similarly, in case any additional access which required for technical perspective, we will firefighter concept. Now, pre-tasks. So the basic GRC activation of client, GRC access control, then the necessary, whatever the necessary BC sets which is a part of ARQ, access request BC sets, and as well as workflow BC set. So access control, SCPR 20 is the BC set activation T code. There are 4 basic access request BC sets are required to configure the ARM. But in case any simplified access request, which is additional 3 BC sets is needed to perform the configuration. Apart from GRAC, ARQ required MSMP configuration BC set which gives the standard reference values in all the workflow area, the 7 stages. There are some rule IDs, some standard process IDs, then standard notifications, standard agents, and standard paths, then standard route mapping. All the information is with help of this BC set. So once the BC sets has completed, then we will initiate some standard admin IDs like basis or security or any admin configuration perspective. They will create the GRC admin and basis admin IDs. Then activate some of the SCIF services, whatever the necessary SCIF service required in terms of GRC. With the help of SICF, we will configure. Then in terms of activate common workflow, we need to activate couple of tasks, that is perform automatic workflow customization, perform task specific customization. Initiate the workflows. Basically, it will create the local RFC and as well as standard admin ID, WF batch or SAP, now current versions SAP underscore WFRCT. So either version, and also some of the standard background jobs. So this is just, we need to go on each and every activate the each and every activity. Once this is done, then configuring the task specific customization activities. So since on the basis installation there is some debug, because as soon as GRC component is installed, automatically once we configure the post task, then we don't face the issue, but immediately basis team will install the plugin as well in the same system. So it will overwrite and it will create empty paths, assign agents and activate event linkages. So because of the standard issue, what we have to do is we have to configure manually whatever the standard agents and activate event linkages and workflow. So with that, we need to go to PFTC. The standard access control related all the informations we need to activate, and in the same PFTC transaction code workflow template, we need to activate the workflow event linkages. So we'll just review one thing. This is a PFTC. So for the first one is a standard task, and the standard value is 56. So as soon as we come to this assign agents, click on maintain. We'll just select the task, the fresh implementation, it should be empty. We'll just click on the attributes, make it general task, click on transfer, then automatically general task will appear here. And similarly, we will select a workflow template. So similarly, workflow template, it will be general task, click on transfer. It should be general task. So like this, for access control perspective, there are 11 process IDs: access request, firefighter, log review, role approval, mitigation control, mitigation, assignment, UAR review, SOD review. So all each approval workflow, there is a task agent for agent identification and workflow notification. So both has to activate. Apart from that, the same WS task, we need to activate workflow, SWDD. So whatever the workflow task, we just activate. So automatically the workflow is active. So these three tasks we need to perform manually, because we are getting assign agents and activate event linkages are empty because of the installation. If the assign agents and activate event linkages are available, then immediately directly we'll go this navigation and will automatically activate the assign agents and activate event linkages. So no need to go to manually PFTC SWE2 transactions. So we have a standard note as well. So GRC MSMP workflow not working and workflow does not support. So as soon as we'll refer this information, one is the standard post installation task, and another one is it will give you the what is the task numbers which is required for access control perspective. So I will share this both note numbers. You can go through and refer, and also this post installation tasks. So any questions? Hello. Any questions? Okay. Yeah. Now we just completed GRC post tasks, mandatory post tasks. That is also required for all the four modules: ARA, EAM, ARM, and BRM. So now, with respect to ARM, we need some of the tasks. That is a busy set again, okay, and connectors. So we will establish RFC. Once the RFC connections completed, creating connectors and connector groups. So once that is completed, there is an integration scenario. In this integration scenario, the system must be mapped to provisioning scenario. So Spro reference IMG, common component settings, integration framework. First, it will comes with RFC connection, the type of RFC connection, create connector, then maintain connectors, select the standard connection type, and map the systems, whether it is SAP, non-SAP. So we will map the system. Once we map the system, then we will create the connector groups. The similar functionalities, we will create the connector groups, and this connector group will help one is a role import and another one is rule set upload. We will use the same logical group, but that is our choice. So whatever LG end with LG is a standard connector group. So we can use the same thing, or we will use as a reference and we will create our own custom groups. But whenever we download the rule set, we will take reference from standard connector groups so that we will get all the files. Otherwise, if it is a custom group, we won't get the function action and function permissions. So we just make sure that. And also always will upload the rule set against connector group, not the system. So once we map the system to logical group and map the system, as soon as this is completed, then we will map the integration scenarios. Automatic monitoring is for process control, but whereas if we want to implement the system risk analysis, then we will map to authorization. Similarly, if you want, we need to provision the users for any SAP system, we must map to Pro connector. So this Pro scenario has a different connection types. So currently SAP version, we will identify SAP version supports the connection types with this screen. Now SAP is supporting HANA database, IAG, LDAP, IAG bridge, IAG group, LDAP, SAP, SuccessFactor, SAML and web service for portal. So currently GRC is supporting these connection types for auto provisioning. In case any other systems, then we will do manual provisioning. Like the workflow configuration is, we will design like all the workflows, but last stage would be manual. That we will discuss upcoming sessions. As soon as the provisioning scenario has mapped, then the system is ready for provisioning. So once this is done, there is a data source configuration. This is required for especially ARM. Data source is nothing but it will, once we integrate the system, the complete details, employee details in any one of the system. So that will help to populate the details in the access request for automation. How we are filling the form, first name, last name, email ID, manager information, the company code, all the necessary details. So that details we will configure auto populate in access request via data source configuration. So this is, we can say, one of the mandatory step, pre-configuration step for access request management, and it has a different configuration options. Such data source is nothing but the complete details, whether user, there are multiple data, we can also configure multiple data sources, but it will search via sequence number. So if the user is identified in GD2, the first option, it won't go to second option. Why we would require multiple options means, some of the companies, they will maintain user details for a permanent employees in one data source, for a contractor employees they will maintain in another data source. So we just make sure that the GRC request is available for both permanent employees and contract employees. So in such a way we need to configure so that we will configure multiple data sources. Detailed data source means we will get the details like first name, last name. And authentication data source is it will it will verify and validate whether the user in SNC within the network. And end user verification, this whether we will use the when we will configure the end user link, then probably we will use for end user verification. If SSO is there, then we don't require password self service. That is alternative. Automatically user is logged into within network, so we don't require a password reset for the user. But the data source configuration will help to populate the details. But current is LDAP, portal, portal UME, user data maintenance, uh, success factor, and any SAP system like GRC or any other systems we can maintain as data sources. But most of the companies they will go for either LDAP or HR system or success factor. Currently, current latest version is success factor. So, any questions? Yes, sir. Yes. No, no. That is a big procedure, na? Same. We will configure all the connector configuration. So similarly, whatever we discussed, right? We need to map all the scenarios, connector configuration. So first we need to start with RFC connection, then connector configuration, then connector group for LDAP separate, then maintain integration scenarios, all the four scenarios. Then apart from that, access control, we need to maintain the connection and maintain mapping and mapping groups. Then do the field mapping. Also, we need to do LDAP and LDAP map T code. We need to perform some activities, but we'll discuss once the workflow is completed, right? We'll discuss our oral session. What are the activities we need to perform for LDAP and portal both. Mhm. We just uh-huh. Yeah, yeah. No, no. Continue your question. Oh, slide. Okay. Mhm. Okay. The sequence is just nothing but we will use multiple systems. There is an option. Okay. But user will search based on the sequence number. First it will search instead of EP1 it will search the GD2 because of sequence. Then it will comes to LDAP. If the user is not able to find, then it will go to EP1. Search criteria. Yes. Yes. But it will identify as the GD2, then it won't go to LDAP. Yes. Satisfy the condition, it automatically it will pull the details. Yes, yes. Nothing. Okay, now as soon as the configuration settings completed, the connector configurations, complete connector configurations, then we need to configure maintain provisioning settings. So this is the key area how you are designing your complete access request management. Okay, the navigation is user provisioning. Okay, so here this is required only for a BRM, but right now it is we are not configuring BRM. So we'll start with HR trigger. In case we will configure HR system, or HR trigger needs to be configured, like hire, rehire, leave of absence, termination, like based on the action ID. First we will create here action ID, then we will maintain the subsequent system details in the tab. User group in case terminated, or in case hire, whatever the new user group which we need to assign, we can give user group. So all the details, but it will basically create the action ID, and we need to create BRF plus. So we must configure in this particular screen. Second, maintain SLA. So for each workflow process, we need to configure SLA period. Why SLA period is required? Because I have submitted requests today, but still 3 months or 4 months, there is no progress, right? There is no progress. Then we have invested a lot of money in this tool, which is a waste of money, right? See, the whatever the process of automation, that will brings speed up the process, and it will provide the access within the time, some time period. So to enable that functionality, GRC has service line agreement. We have a whatever the workflows, right? Process IDs. Based on process IDs, we can set up SLA. So suppose the firefighter report, log report, it must be reviewed within 7 days. Suppose if it is access request, so we need to configure the its number of days. SLA period might be 21 days. We can configure after 21 days. So we will cancel the request. Meanwhile, we have a two set of process. One is reminders. Every 6 days we will send reminders, or every 5 days we will send reminder. So per stage it will wait for 21 days. Once the 21 days period reaches, we will initiate one program, will cancel the request. Do you want to repeat? Sorry. No, we can configure any request based on the request process type. We will configure the SLA period. EAM request. Access, you are asking within the access request what type of request, right? Lock, unlock. Yeah, new user creation, role assignment, firefighter request, anything. Yeah, based on the process ID. But all the request types are associated with the process type, right? So this process ID. But firefighter log, only the firefighter log request will be there. So which is very critical. So we will maintain 7 days. It has to be reviewed and approved by within 7 days. So whatever the SLA days, here we will maintain it within three other process. One is reminders. So one is first SLA configuration, then reminders. Like within SLA configuration, we will send some reminders. Once it reaches the peak time, then we'll cancel the request. It's a program, and this task also will send program. Also, in the reminders, okay, or the SLA period, there is a possibility for weekends exception, like only working days, 21 days. Do you want to include uh, working days or weekends, including weekends? That option also we need to check with a basis team. Basis team will design a calendar. So there is a mechanism. They will schedule a calendar. They will maintain the holidays or weekends exception. Basis team will configure that calendar. Based on that, it will work. We need to check whether this 21 days will include holidays and weekends, or it is a complete 21 days. Based on that, we will configure, and subsequent configurations should be required. So any questions? Do you want any information? Yeah, for anything. Once, as soon as you configure the SCAL, it will work as a system based. It is it will work as a system based. Yeah, it's a global calendar. So first, yeah, I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that. No, first, as of now, are you clear? First SLA configuration, but to achieve SLA configuration, we need to send a reminders and cancel the request. But the number of SLA days will depend on calendar. But if required, any holidays to be excluded. So if you observe, batch email reminder and GRAC batch still request, right? So these two are the programs. One is email reminder. So we will select the process access request approval. So the period number of days would be 21. Don't remind 20. So every 5 days it will send the reminders. After 20 days it won't send reminder. And template ID, this is a standard template. We will discuss a separate session for email templates. So like this we will configure each process ID via this program. As soon as this will schedule as a background job program, it will automatically send notification every 5 days. So 4 times it will send. After 20 days it won't send notification. It's 21. So 4 notifications it will send. After 21 days it won't send any reminder notification. Like this we will configure reminders. And once the 21 days reaches, still the request has not approved, which is a very big headache for us, because even though we are sending reminders, the request is still open. Sometimes there is a parameter, as the request is open, we cannot submit another request. So there is a parameter we can also configure. If request is still open, we cannot submit another request. So because of this ambiguity, so what we have to do is, once it reaches 21 days, so we will cancel the request. So 21 days, this is called stale period. Access request approved, stale period. So once we schedule this background job, automatically it will cancel the request, but it will, this 21 days is per stage. Meaning, if the request is not approved at manager till 21 days, even though sending reminders, then it will cancel. 20th day manager has approved, then again it will goes to request roll owner stage. It will wait for 21 days, not the request starting. Make sure, just remember the point. Per stage it will wait for 21 days, not the request submission date and closing, waiting period. Per stage it will wait for 21 days. Are you getting me? So if you want to exclude this 21 days, like a holiday calendar and everything, basis will set up as there is a exception calendar, so that it will perform appropriate, like exclude the weekends and any holidays. Okay, so I will share this program names as well for your reference. Stale batch and email reminder. So once the SLA completed, so define request types. So before, we have activated one of the BC set. This is access request types. As soon as the BC set has activated, automatically the request types, new account, change account, delete, it will display the process ID. So till this access request, the firefighter access, then this is BRM, then SOD review, SOD review, UR review, risk approval, mitigation control function approval, the normal BRM request, and this is also access request. So for each request type, the set of actions. We can create the user and assign the roles. But if it is super user access, firefighter access, like this, the actions will assign. In case you don't require create account and change account, you want to combine new slash change, you can create a new account, new request type here, and mapping the change account and create user. So combining these actions, based on that, you will create a new request. It has list of actions which are available. So for reference values, to get the reference values, we will activate the busy sets. Maintain priority configuration. This is also a busy set. Priority configuration. So high, medium, basically high, medium, low. So if you scroll right, if you are able to see, it should look like a duplicate, but it is based on the process ID. So even you can create, in case any critical or any other, for any process ID, you can create. Sizes. Okay. So last three, critical, high, medium, low are the process ID access request. There is no critical. So if you want, you can create critical. Then define employee types. So we can in case the company has a requirement, the contractors and permanent hire has a different set of approvals. Contractor has, employee has some set of approvals, and permanent employees, the associates has a separate approval process. Then we need to differentiate, we need to create employee types, so that this will feed in the access request as an input, also BRF plus as an input, so that we will configure employee approval path or contractor approval path. Like this, there are different naming conventions. We can configure the approval paths. In case company has a requirement to differentiate between the associates and contractors, we can define employee types in the one of the input. So maintain number ranges. So sorry, any questions? Request type priority. Okay, you, whenever you want to submit the request, there is an option. The request is a critical priority, high priority, or low priority. That request type. Generally, we won't use, but in case you want to maintain that as mandatory field and request has to complete within the time. So we can define. No, that depends how we are using. See, no. Generally, we won't use that option, but you can make it mandatory step. See, priority. This is not a mandatory field. Okay. If you want, you can make it mandatory, and your request is very critical. You can define high. So this has to be complete within some set of approvals, right? Within 1 day or 2 days. We can define. See, as soon as you make it mandatory, then definitely there are some set of activities we need to perform, right? We need to the priority path you can define in separate workflow. So based on the priority, you need to go to only department head approval. Okay, instead of manager role owner. Based on priority, you can define your own workflow. This is an input. Yeah, we can define that. We can define that. Yeah. Like how we are utilizing this as an input. We can design our workflow based on the input. Yes. We can configure this one, right? You were asking that no workflow we can define. Okay, the SLA ID we can give, but it should require some customization because you are creating within process ID multiple line items, right? So for each line item, it should satisfy. It will verify the condition, right? We can do, but there is some customization also required. How we will do the request, but we can achieve that. See, as soon as you maintain the priority, then definitely you can create a separate path. Based on that, you can check the SLA periods and set everything right. No, that's what I'm saying. See, you can create multiple SLAs. Okay, here in the description you can give high, medium, low. But when you configure the BRF plus custom, you can map the ID, SLA ID, or you can use some coding, whatever the SLA ID is applicable. Okay. Now, number ranges. Why number ranges are required means there is a standard JRC request number. So this is this is a request number which helps to create the access request. Like we will start the starting number and till this request number. What is NR is the current status. As of now, till 19 requests are created. Once we cross this, then we need to define another number range in the company. it will automatically create the number range interval, will automatically create the request. Like first I will submit one request, it will take 9. Then my colleague will submit, then it will take automatically 10. Like this, the request numbers will generate. But what is the range we will define in the during the configuration. Don't select external number range. This, as soon as you select the checkbox, then we need to assign the number. Like instead of system generate, we need to generate the number. Like some of the functional, they will create external numbers based on the vendor. The number will generate manually, but still that option is here. But don't select when you are creating external number range, this option. So this, in case you want to create additional number range, then sorry, we can check here. This is a display. First we will create, then we will check the request numbers. So whether it is active or not, you can check. Based on that, we can create the request numbers here. These two steps are basically interlinked. First, we can create range. We can define the number of ranges. Once we cross the, then we can add 2000 requests to 4000, 4 lakhs or 40 lakhs. But the current status of request number, you can check here. End user personalization. First is we will select the GRC request number. Second one, we will extend the request number. Like in case this is completed, we will extend. This is kind of it. First one is creation, second one is maintenance, you can say. Yes, yes, this one. We will create the number of ranges. 19, the current number. Current number 19 request got submitted. So if you want to define the new number range, we need to create a second line item here. This maximum 20 lakhs or something, right? This will reach us. Then we need to create maximum 6 nines or 7 nines, so that nobody reaches, but they will create like this. 5 nines or 6 nines probably. Yeah, current active request number. Current active request number. So maintain end user personalization. So maintain end user personalization. So this is actually our request form. In the access request form, Excel, before the security implemented, before GRC, we will use some Excel file to fill up the details, request type, like date, requester name, email ID, personal information, first name, last name, middle name, there's any phone number, contact number, or what is the designation, everything. So whatever the request form, in terms of automation, GRC, we will use end user personalization form. So in the access request, there are some mandatory fields and there are some fields are visible, which is not mandatory. In the what fields are visible and what fields out of what all the fields, what are the fields are mandatory, we can set up in end user personalization. Like in this account number, it's not a mandatory. So editable empty means we are not doing. We will mainly concentration on this tab. Visible. Visible means it is visible in the page. Account number might be here. Store number, room number, account number. So might be here. So this is visible and editable, but it's not mandatory. So we need to make sure that mandatory, editable, visible, last name. So like this. Whenever it is required, so the list of uh, fields which is required. So SAP will provide the standard values. So in case you want to enable like priority, so we did just now discussed priority should be mandatory. We can set this as mandatory. So like this, we can reconfigure. So the standard value it is also coming with a basis set, UP basis set, and if you want to configure, we can configure in EUP. We want to set any value should be mandatory. The default value should be 999. Okay. The key fields like approver, we discussed, right? One user per request. Open. We can set here. Open request. And approvers cannot approve their own request. We have a parameter, only firefighter owner and firefighter controller cannot approve their own requests. But manager, if you want to control manager, mitigation owner, everything, we can achieve this by setting up UP. So they cannot approve their own requests. This is the only option we have. So you can go through this fields, but whenever it is required, like any particular field, you cannot find a sub process. So whenever you can get some requirement, you cannot find, sorry, we can search, whether we can search any details which is required, we need to search in the EUP, whether we can achieve or not in the system. But key fields are approve or reject request, one one user per request per system. Rest of the other fields are same as a standard reference. But why EUP? What is the importance of EUP means? But we will discuss in workflow. In the workflow, there is a particular stage, task settings. We can mention EUP ID. We can create some custom EUP ID. Like still, um, the standard requirement, email is mandatory. But some of the companies, I'm just giving one scenario. Some of the companies, they will use help desk to submit the request. Till help desk, the first stage help desk, they doesn't know email. So we need to change this as, we need to remove this mandatory. And second stage, the network team or might be manager, as soon as the request submitted, then manager will update the email ID, or maybe network team will update the email ID. So in this particular scenario, we can remove email in the first stage, and we can add email as mandatory in the second stage. So we need to modify the 999 EUP settings, and we need to create separate EUP settings, and we will add that EUP ID number into the second stage. But I will remind this in when we are configuring the workflow. So that would help. Sometimes approvers cannot approve their own requests. Each stage they will maintain EUP IDs. They will create approver stage, separate EUP number, but during the request submission, 999 is a standard EUP ID. So any questions? Mhm. Mhm. Okay. See, the field mapping is help the values. Okay, to populate the details, right, in the access request. But what is the mandatory fields? What should required? You can decide with EUP. Based on that, you can populate the details. Suppose last name and email ID only mandatory. Manager, you can configure manager. Only these three items, right? The three items based on the mandatory fields, you can configure your LDAP mapping to populate the details in these three field names. Are you getting me? If suppose company, sorry, sorry, no, definitely. See, LDAP has everything. You can get all the details in LDAP, but only very few fields we will maintain, right? And we don't require. In case we don't require, we will disable all the unnecessary fields. See, Shrikant, there is an option, okay, whatever your question. In the connector configuration, provisioning, we will do field mapping here. Okay. In general, LDAP, so if you observe all the fields, right, there are 59 fields probably. So all the field names, the respective field name we will map. But ideally, we cannot use all the fields. Only the necessary mandatory fields which are required. Company, manager, mail, first name, last name. So the primary requirements. Only those details we will do the field mapping and try to populate the data in access request. Okay. Yeah. General. See, this is not customized, but it has plenty of fields. So we do. In case we don't require SNC, then we will remove. So we will make it as visible no in the EUPID. Ah, that's what. Na? So visible option. Department is there. Huh. Anything. If you set visible no, then automatically it won't. What you have to check is make sure that you are setting no. Mandatory also no. See, sometimes it may have S. You can save, but it is not visible, but it is mandatory. System will throw the error. You need to make sure that whatever is not visible, make sure that that is not mandatory. It's a trial and error basis. We need to check that. Hmm. Huh. That you can do now. You can make it visible no, then automatically it won't. It will work internally. If, as soon as you can make it a mandatory yes, then that essence is string. You need to do some field map, some mapping. There is essence in name. You have to use user ID like hash user ID colon hash. Some field mapping you need to do that. Yes. Yes, you can do that. Yes, yes, you can do that. Hmm. Hmm. No, definitely. No, it will use the data source only. See, for okay, the data source configuration is used for both create and it's a basically system. It won't depends on the request type. Okay, as soon as the data source, in your case, only SAP system. Okay, the first time you need to enter the details. Later, the same system you maintained as a data source, right? Then only you are able to get the data like first name, last name, whatever you have filled during the request, new request submission. But in the practical scenario, like a real-time scenario, LDAP will fetch the data irrespective of request type. But in, in your practice system, you don't have a facility. So that is the reason you need to enter the complete details, the user details. That's what I have showed you, right? The field mapping. See, as soon as the network, the user ID is created, here this is just a point. In the access control, you are saying email ID, but whereas in the LDAP you can say mail. If it is last name, we can call it as SN in LDAP. There's a user ID. Here maybe user in the LDAP. Company code, company underscore name, company. There are some standard names. We need to check the LDAP. That depends upon what LDAP are Active Directory, Microsoft or different directories, right? Whatever the fields you want to configure in the access request, you need to share the details with Active Directory team. I need first name, last name, company code, manager, in any email, SNC, any name. As soon as you shoot an email, the Active Directory team will share the information. All just you need to maintain that information in the field mapping. But there are some transactions LDAP and LDAP map where you can import the structure of the LDAP and what data needs to be mapped. There are some configuration, but it should be a basis. But we will discuss on high level. Mhm, mhm. No, I have maintained S4 HANA system as a data source. That's why it is getting. Definitely LDAP, the user ID will be populated, right? As soon as your request, your user ID will be created, right? See, as soon as you are hired, then network team will create your user account, your all the details, department number, everything, the necessary details, your email ID, everything. Automatically, the same LDAP will be synced to GRC. That was integrated and synced. Sure, automatically. Say, Field mapping. Yeah, yeah. I will share that information. Yes, sir. Yeah, we will stop here, sir, because we need to lot of discussion on the next one by one. Probably we'll take it as next week. Yeah,